Hello and welcome to coverage of Grand Prix Providence. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Jacob Van Loon, and he's back, Jake. Our favorite, Andrew Cuneo, is back in the feature match area this time.
Goodness.
Finds himself at 7-0 playing against Matt Costa. And we've got a nice little, kind of a classic here. We've got white-blue control from Andrew Cuneo, which is kind of where he wants to be in Magic for the most part. He'll play whatever he thinks is the best, but he loves these blue-white control decks. He's playing against Matt Costa, who's on red-white vehicles. So as you can see, a pretty quick start here from Costa. He has 2 1-drops on the battlefield already. He had a Needle Spire to kind of slow him down a little bit. But still, he's attacking for a significant amount of damage. That's a 4 damage hit right there. And Andrew has done, as thus far, nothing. Though that was pretty nice. He got to negate a Smuggler's Copter on the way down.
Yeah, and cards like Toolcraft Exemplar, these decks really play a lot like modern zoo decks sometimes when they're operating well. You know, you have these cards like Toolcraft Exemplar and Inventor's Apprentice that are really good impersonators of cards like Wild Nacatl and Curd Ape. And
well, I'll tell you what, Andrew Cuneo does not have access to Lightning Bolt, so he'll have to use Immolating Glare, which isn't even remotely close.
Yeah, not even remotely
got the job
close.
done there.
Yeah.
That Toolcraft Exemplar now in the bin, but he's replaced by another one. And you can see that Matt Costa, only on 2 lands, is still able to use up his mana pretty effectively here. And once again, attacking in for 3. He's going to sacrifice a clue. Matt Costa playing around Spell Queller here by not attacking with his 2 Thraben Inspectors. Just doesn't want to throw them away. Would trade off, however, a Toolcraft Exemplar for 1, apparently. Andrew Cuneo continues to pass the turn. If you haven't seen this blue-white deck in action, this is what it does. It basically plays the majority, if not its whole game plan, on your turn.
Yeah.
It is going to force you to make decisions without complete information.
I believe Cuneo's build of the deck is entirely to be played on the opponent's turn.
Yeah, because he really ups the counter spells. That's kind of his signature.
Yeah.
He loves himself a counter spell, and he did not go shy on them here either, man. He's got a ton of them.
Oh, yeah. He's got 3 negate in the main. He has 4 Void Shatter.
4 Void Shatter, 3 negate. He has 4 Spell Queller, which is kind of a, counter spell-ish. And this looks like it's going to be Archangel Avacyn now from Cuneo, who's going to just gobble up a Toolcraft Exemplar. Matt Costa is certainly aware that that was a possibility. He's not going to be happy about it, but you do what you got to do. He gets in for 2 damage and follows up with a Depala. Okay. Archangel Avacyn, thanks to Vigilance, able to just sort of freely chip in there for 4. And once again, Andrew passes the turn. You'll note he has yet to play a spell on his turn.
And the only time he casts spells on his own turn is to counter spells that his opponents play on his turn.
There's a Selfless Spirit now for Matt Costa. Looks pretty good. Ooh, it looks good enough that it's going to draw Void Shatter from Andrew Cuneo. But wait, there's more. Another Selfless Spirit. And this is going to be met with, well, an Anticipate. So that is going to resolve. And now that Costa is effectively tapped out, Andrew knows what kind of cards he's digging for here.
And Andrew doesn't have any board sweepers. So
no.
At this stage of the game, he's really looking to just get into the game by interacting with creatures. And, the math doesn't look awesome for him right now. If Matt can keep on laying it on thick, then he's going to be in trouble.
Definitely not loving the math here myself. There's a Void Shatter for that Pia Nalar for Matt Costa, but this will clear the way for what could be a pretty reasonable attack, especially if Matt's willing to sacrifice his Selfless Spirit to keep the team alive. So first things first, though, Depala has a trigger. She sees 2 lands and puts those on the bottom, which is kind of good, right? Those will not be drawn.
Absolutely. And I mean, that's one of the things that makes this red-white vehicles deck so much better than aggressive decks of the past, is the fact that you can manipulate your library, smooth out your draws so well.
It looks like the Archangel Avacyn has jumped in front of the Selfless Spirit, which means that Andrew's going to take an additional point of damage over having blocked Depala. But this clock is very real from Archangel Avacyn. Let's not forget that. Matt's down to 8. She's done 12 damage. He's just 2 hits away.
He might be at 4 now. Is that possible? No.
I think it is 8. But
okay.
Also, Matt has lethal here if he wants to activate his Needle Spires. He doesn't. It looks like he's got another plan. He's got a Veteran Motorist. Ooh, that's some business. There's a Selfless Spirit.
And a Fleet Wheel Cruiser.
Yeah.
Thing attacks very nicely.
Yeah, that could be a game ender for Matt Costa if he is able to set up a turn where he can resolve that. Take a look at Fleet Wheel Cruiser here. Not that difficult to get crewed. And the first time you play it, you don't even have to bother with it. And in the 5/3 Trample Haste is just a heck of a lot of damage to try to manage if you're on Cuneo's side of the battlefield. Now, again, it's counterable. It's 4 mana. Like, he certainly has answers to it that he could use. Negates, which are, you know, a little more valuable in a world with vehicles in it. And then you mentioned the Void Shatters. Ooh, here is a Torrential Gearhulk now from Cuneo. That's going to get him an Anticipate back. And this is supposed to be the turn where things start to slip away from Matt Costa. This is where Andrew has probably stabilized the board. He's got Matt down to 1 hit.
Yeah. This Avacyn is now a lethal threat. So
Matt probably is just going to have to go for it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if he doesn't go for it, he's going to die to the swing back. So.
That's right. So we're going to see Matt Costa now craft this last turn. He's got the Needle Spires.
Oh, he can block here. He does have the Smuggler's
Okay,
Copter.
he's got a Copter. That's interesting. It also trades off with Archangel Avacyn thanks to DePaula and or Veteran Motorist. In fact, actually could just eat, just block, and it's a 5/5. So that's actually good enough for Cuneo to counter with a Void Shatter. He wants to preserve his ability to win next turn. He knows that he's not going to face down lethal here. He would be at 1 with an all-out attack.
And that looks like it's it. I mean, I think
Yes.
the only action Matt has left is DePaula, and because Andrew has, prioritized other cards over that in terms of blocking, I mean, that card's just stranded in Matt's hand.
Wow, this has been a sweet one. Andrew Cuneo had to decide whether to use the counter there. Said, yep, I'm going to counter it, and I think that probably sets him up for the win next turn. I don't really see a way out of it for Costa. Yeah, Matt's just going to pass. Cuneo looks at his hand and says, jam for the win, and that does it. Andrew Cuneo hangs on. He's able to keep up with Matt Costa on a card-for-card basis. His life total went down quickly, but Archangel Avacyn took big chunks out of Matt Costa's life total every single turn, and she, in fact, did all the work that game. She took him from 20 to 0 all on her own.
Pretty amazing. Andrew Cuneo did not look like he was in any position to win that game.
It was a very good draw from Costa, yet Cuneo just worked his way through it. Oh, no. Oh, no. Ari Lax laying the beats down here with his Mardu Vehicles deck. This does not look good for Andrew Davis. Andrew has a lot of cards in his hand. And not a whole heck of a lot going on the battlefield here. And can only assume that he's just going to get ran over. Okay. He's got something for us.
He's trying to catch up. Is that a pair of Gideon emblems underneath that Gideon?
Those
that
are
possible?
clues, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're the clues from the Thraben inspectors.
Okay.
I mean, to be fair, Andrew is not dead on board here. He's just significantly behind. Okay, that helps too. Declaration in stone to take out 2 Thraben inspectors and increase the clue count up to 4 here for Ari.
Could definitely have been worse, though.
Yeah. Here's Needle Spires and Gideon getting ready to rumble, and that actually will do it. And in fact, that's the match. My goodness. Ari Lax, very quick to dispatch Andrew Davis there. Looked like Andrew had some mana issues. Missed a land drop or two. And boy, that Mardu vehicles deck can just pounce on you if you do that.
It's so good at punishing people for stumbling even just the smallest amount. These vehicle decks, I mean, they're resilient. They punish people for bad draws. They quick. They give you more time to relax between matches.
Would you call them consistent?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you have the scry from the veteran motorist and all that type of thing.
You do have
and
that.
I think it's important that they gave it the ability to scry and the ability to set up its hand, because otherwise it is this deck that's playing cards that require other cards to do anything. So I think that finding that balance was important, but I think it is more consistent than, say, the most aggressive decks from the more recent standards. Like those red decks, the Atarka red decks, I think it's much more consistent than those types of decks.
Okay. Still seems quite powerful, too.
Yeah, it is quite powerful. I think it's really it was the first obvious very strong deck coming into this format.
Yeah, that was the one that really hit the Open Series first. There was 3 copies of that deck, excuse me, in the top 8. That was definitely the first place the Brewers went to. It was like, hey, these vehicles look all right. I don't know if you've heard of the Smuggler's Copter card, but I'm going to try it out.
Yeah, Smuggler's Copter is a very, very real card. I think that first Open had 32 copies in the top 8.
It had 32 of a possible 32.
Yes.
All right, we're underway in game number 2. Matt Costa on the play with red-white vehicles. He's got a Thraben Inspector into... You guessed it. That's like the 6th time today that we've had Thraben Inspector into Smuggler's Copter. Get used to it.
These people draw so much better than me.
There's a DePaula as well. Wow, what a perfect curve here for Costa. He's going to crew up the Copter and jam. And does Cuneo have one of his immolating glares? Yes. Yes, he does. So down goes the Smuggler's Copter, but it's just a 1-for-1, and Costa got some value there.
And this threatens to be really dangerous.
Register for the Innistrad Sealed at 6 o'clock. If you are interested in playing in our Innistrad Sealed event, please come on up to registration and register now. Again, this is last call to register for the Innistrad.
Looks like
Sealed
Costa's
event.
just going to kind of move all in on DePaula here. He's going to activate the triggered ability from her for the full amount. That means he's not casting anything else with that mana this turn. Spell Queller, though, now that the way is clear, is just going to ambush the poor Thraben Inspector there. But still, DePaula's getting through, and Costa even had a land and a 1-drop to follow up with a Toolcraft Exemplar. No artifact. Oh, sorry, he still has a clue on the battlefield as well. So looking pretty good there for Costa. Oh, no.
Oof.
Gisela the Broken Blade? Hello, old friend.
And now Matt really needs a removal spell.
Yeah,
I
and I
mean,
don't think he's got one. Man, Giselle is the type of card that can absolutely dominate a board. She just has to survive, which can be pretty tricky. She dies to a lot of the removal in the format, like Harness Lightning, Fiery Temper, that kind of stuff. At only 3 toughness, but geez, if she survives, forget it.
it's just so strong.
Yeah.
You know what I want to play that alongside?
What's that?
Can you guess?
Bruna?
Blossoming Defense. One would think I would say Bruna, but
I like Blossoming Defense there. That's pretty, that's
that
clever.
seems really nice with that one, right?
Yeah, it really does. That is a card worth protecting. That's the type of card that if they fire off their first removal spell and it doesn't work, they usually are way behind. Like they need to find one and fast. Andrew is playing a similar game plan, by the way, to your idea. Instead of using green Blossoming Defense to counter, removal spells from his opponent, he's just countering the removal spells
Yeah,
from his
he's using
opponent.
like Dispel and
Yeah.
Spell Queller and all that good stuff.
That's
yeah.
right. And I mean, what is Matt supposed to do? He is not racing a 4/3 lifelink without, really committing to the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's an 8-point life swing every time it turns
Yeah,
sideways.
it's going to be very difficult. Oh, is this an Archangel Avacyn as well? Bang. Cuneo plays the Archangel Avacyn, but Stasis Snare is going to take care of business. And that's going to let Andrew Cuneo trade off here, it looks like.
Is that even a trade, though?
Oh.
The emblem there? It might actually be a chump.
You are correct. It gets +2, +1 from itself, but it already has +1, +1. What is he, a dwarf too? It's like a 10-10. The good news, of course, for Andrew is that his Spell Queller did have Indestructible from his Archangel Avacyn, so even though there was no actual transaction there, he gets to keep his Queller.
Just bumping. Bumper cars.
Yep. He's fine with that, I'm sure. That was a significant amount of damage. Back to Andrew.
And I mean, Andrew, at this point, do you just keep bashing with this Gisela? I can't really think of a reason not to.
Yeah, I mean, she's also a fantastic blocker, but it does feel like the correct line is to just keep bashing, though. It depends a lot on what Andrew has in his hand. He's actually just going to attack with both. He's like, look, let's race. I've got a 4-powered lifelinker here. You are going to have a darn hard time racing this thing. He also just played a Westphal Abbey. So, he can just start chump blocking, take 1 instead of 4 type thing. I mean, he only needs to buy himself 2 more turns. He's at 19.
Yeah. It's insane. Matt's start to this game, and Andrew's just at 19.
Yeah.
He's just hanging out.
Wow. That was interesting there, too. There was a veteran motorist that just hit the battlefield for Costa. He just put both cards on top. I mean, Cuneo was like bottom, because, he knows that there's a chance that his Gisela could die. But both went to the top.
And it seems pretty unlikely to me that anything that doesn't interact with Gisela stays on top.
Well, maybe not. Maybe he was just setting this up. Oh, I see. So he knew that he hit 2 eligible targets for his DePaula and just thought, well, I'll just draw both of these. So that wasn't so much him putting exactly what he wanted. He just viewed them as basically free.
Yeah. And that's entirely reasonable.
It is. Unfortunately for Matt Costa, another Archangel Avacyn came down and kind of ruined the day of a Toolcraft exemplar. And this is actually a lethal attack now from Cuneo in the air. So that Smuggler's Copter is going to have to block something.
I don't even think Andrew attacks with the Spell Queller. I think, getting Matt to 1 and losing that body is not really worth it. I think he just turns the Giselle sideways once more, says go. I guess you attack with Avacyn also, obvious.
Well,
no,
you
I don't
could.
think you do.
It's definitely not obvious because right now that Smuggler's Copter is going to get
it's
benefit.
A 5/5.
From both DePaula, and if he wants, he can use the Veteran Motorist to crew it, and it's a 5/5.
Yeah, and then he also has the emblem, so it's actually a 6/6.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that thing is deceptively large.
It is. It is. Like, Andrew has to really plan out his next few turns here because even though he has 10 power in the air and Matt Costa's at 10, he does not want to start throwing these angels away. That Gideon emblem really kind of ruining his day here, too, because, there is a line involving trying to get Avacyn transformed here as well, which would take out 2 of the creatures on Matt's side. So maybe that's what he's going to try to line up here.
Seems like a decent plan. So here's the 6/6.
It's getting bigger. By the time he blocks, it could be an 8/8.
Yeah, who knows what it's going to be?
Costa does.
The background, an opportunity to see Joe Demestrio there getting very excited about how large this Smuggler's Copter is.
Right. So Matt has blocked Archangel Avacyn to prevent that transform shenanigans, but that did let Andrew Cuneo get in for 6 and knock Matt Costa down to 4. He's also got Athalia, Thraben Heretic, as a follow-up play here. So looking pretty good for Andrew, but it's close.
It is very, very close.
On-demand draft number 112. Grant Fishman and Drew
Interestingly, did we see if Matt looted there when he blocked? Thought he didn't.
Oh, that is very interesting. That's another thing about Smuggler's Copter that's often missed is that you get that trigger when you block with it in addition to when you attack with it.
Yeah.
It's the best kind of looter. It's always looting.
So this is DePaula plus Toolcraft Exemplar attacking. DePaula, he's paid 3 to activate her ability. He missed.
Mm-hmm.
Costa's got big problems here. That should be tapped. The DePaula supposed to enter the battlefield tapped, right?
Yeah.
There it goes. I don't think that's super relevant as all of Cuneo's. Well, actually, it may be. I don't know. Yeah, that's going to do it. Matt Costa, I think he just forgot, honestly, about the tap part of it because he left himself shields down, and that did it. Andrew Cuneo, 2 games to 0. And, we have him as blue-white control, but he looked like the aggressor in both of those games as he was able to kind of turn the corner on Matt Costa and just start pounding with Archangel Avacyn. And then we saw Giselle out of the sideboard there do some good work for him, keep his life total nice and high so that Matt couldn't try to pose a race situation to him.
And just breaking an already broken blade over and over and over again. And it's so hard to race.
Well, he kind of broke it on his head that time. But
exactly.
Alexander Hayne and Ben Friedman are underway here. They're both sitting at 6-1 coming into the 8th round of action. Looks like Ben, with Mardu vehicles, finds himself up a game and looking nice here, I have to say. He's got 2 active Planeswalkers. All right, well, looks like I spoke too soon. Gideon just took one for the team there. But still an active Chandra. And maybe the ability to get that Caravan up and running. Those are big hits of damage. And it dodges the Dynavolt Tower pretty nicely as well. Always watching. Okay. Guess he's just going to play it because it's free. Though the fact that he doesn't have any creatures makes that slightly awkward. Hey, found a creature. It's a Gideon.
Those tokens that it makes, those don't really benefit from always watching either, though.
They do not. Yeah, we're kind of non-bowing off here a little bit, but whatever. Still powerful plays. I mean, it's still a 2-2. It's still pressure. It's still something that Alex is going to have to consider and deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, Ben's got multiple Planeswalkers in play against his control opponent. It's definitely a place I want to be. This deck that Alex is playing, kind of exciting. He's a, just everyday run-of-the-mill, just guy control deck that's splashing green for Nissa.
Oh, man.
Just for that double green spell, I believe there are multiple pros playing 4-color control.
Oh, really?
In the version that Alex has here in the room today.
Looks like a fun deck, I'll say that. There's a Chandra plus ability, putting her up to 7. We've actually already seen a Chandra Ultimate today on camera.
Yeah, Osa.
Yep. He did some pretty savage work with that thing, too. We may see another ultimate here as well, as Ben Friedman has Chandra at 7. That is the loyalty she needs to go ultimate. So if he gets to untap, we could see that happen.
And last time we saw Chandra Ultimate, it was just the least fair thing in the universe.
It was devastating, yeah.
And it looks like Ben's going to not have too much difficulty cleaning this one up.
If he does, that'll be 2-0 for him, and he'll improve to 7-1, knock Alex down to 6-2. Really hoping to pick up that win in the last match. Coming into day 2 at X3 is not where these pros want to be. These guys are both professional Magic players.
Yeah, Ben Friedman, a bit of a conservative outfit for him this weekend. He usually lets his freak flag fly a little more, you know.
No tank top, no straw hat.
Yeah.
Okay, so Alex does have one Dynavolt charge saved up, and he's going to fire it off on something here. And he's going to do it Chandra, and that makes sense. Like I said, if you got to untap there, you would see Chandra ultimate on Ben's turn, and then things get incredibly difficult for Alex. So he's going to have to just use the Dynavolt tower to kind of clumsily handle these walkers. You know, that is not a great long-term game plan. It was more just a necessity for Alex.
I mean, if he didn't do that, then he'd have ultimate being threatened, and it would just be a nightmare for him.
Yeah. Anticipate now for Hayne. He's digging.
Yeah, I mean, he only has 4 mana now. It's hard for me to think of a combination of cards that he could really come up with in this spot. 2 planeswalkers. All these creatures. There's even, you know, an always watching in play.
Chandra keeps finding lands, which is a little bit awkward.
Each of those lands deals 2 damage, though. It's a
good point. See, Alex has fallen down to 4 after that last activation. Yeah, I'm not seeing how Alex gets his way out of this one, Jake.
Yeah, it's looking pretty grim, I think.
This is not looking good.
Yeah, and then Hayne, you know, looking a bit dejected at this point, and who can blame him?
Friedman's going to trigger his Toolcraft Exemplar, let that trigger resolve, use that to crew up the Caravan. And he's got a very big attack here with 2 vehicles and a Gideon, plus an Inventor's Apprentice, all getting pumped from Always Watching.
Yeah, every single one of those is lethal. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's going to do it. Ben Friedman locks up the win against a tough opponent, Alexander Hayne. And like I said at the beginning of the match, that's going to put him at 7-1. And if he can close out strong with this vehicles deck, you know, he'd find himself in a really nice position going into day 2. And one of those ones where you wake up day 2 in the morning, you're like, okay,
yeah,
run this thing up and I'll find myself in the top 8. You know, it starts
Splash
to become
little cold water
inside.
on your face.
Yeah. Now, if he picks up
Shadow
a loss
box.
in the last round, though, it really does take a pretty big toll on it. All right, that is going to do it for round 8 here from Providence.
Test drive the top standard decks from Pro Tour Kaladesh in the Pro Tour Gauntlet, happening now on Magic Online. For more information, visit mtgo.com.
Support your local game store by going to Friday Night Magic. Have fun hanging out with friends, cracking new Magic packs, and playing with your favorite Kaladesh cards. Featuring devious gremlins, ingenious dwarves, and face-smashing gearhulks.